Well, hi there. Welcome into Greater Dayton Live. I'm Dan Edwards from the new Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ. And yes, can you feel the excitement in the air? It is getting closer. The Veteran Dayton Air Show presented by Kroger right around the corner, June 24th and 25th at the Dayton International Air Show, or airports. And part of that air show is this gentleman right here. I am so honored. We are honored here at DATV to have Rob Reider, one of the most sought after air show announcers in the world with us. Rob, great to have you on set today, man. It is a privilege to talk with you. You know, you popped in briefly with Michael Imhoff as we were talking with Mike, who's the executive director of the Veteran Dayton Air Show. And you said you started all this in 1978?
Yeah, I used to be on the Bob Braun Show. Folks who have been around long enough may remember that show because it was live in Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, and Indianapolis. But in 1978, we brought the show, band and all, up to Vandalia and put on our show there as a remote one day. And that led ultimately through connections and relationships with people to my beginning to announce a little bit at Dayton. And a guy there who was the longtime voice there, Bill Bordelot, allowing me more and more mic time. Got some encouragement from the people who were involved in the show there. So they even started to pay me here. My first paid air shows were here at Dayton. And then by 1995, I joined the International Council of Air Shows, something Mike Imhoff was talking about, our trade organization. And in 2006, chose to chase after the air show business as my full-time work. And so I've been doing it since then, and I'll go past 300 shows before the end of this season.
That's incredible.
That time.
You're right up there with Danny as far as, I don't know how many shows Danny Chisholm are.
Well, Danny Clisholm has been announcing air shows for over 50 years, so I don't know. He could be way up in the close to 1,000 shows as far as I would know, because he has spent a great deal of time doing it, and he loves doing it. I love working with him. It's a great opportunity. You
can tell. But you started almost by accident. You were kind of a ham operator, and all of a sudden, boom, we needed a replacement, and you kind of reluctantly picked up the microphone.
Yeah, it was down in Cincinnati in 1978 at the Lunken Airport Air Show, which is no more. I was working with the ham radio operators as a communicator, something that I started doing at Dayton the following year, but I was asked on the second day to announce the show because the guy who had announced the day before, a weatherman from Channel 9 in Cincinnati, didn't show up on Sunday. He thought it was a one-day gig. So they said, "Can you do it?" And I said, "I didn't really want to, but I did." And so that was, oh, okay, well, you know, I could handle a microphone. I've been doing TV shows, TV for a long time, so I was not afraid of a microphone, certainly. So.
Did you know much about aviation at that time?
I liked aviation. For a long time, I wanted to be a pilot, but then I got involved in music, and then I wanted to be the next John Denver. So, I got to, you know, with my years on television, I got to do just about every kind of music you could think of, from show tunes to John Denver to country to Earth, Wind and Fire, and you know, James Taylor, whatever.
Well, my golly, yeah. I mean, as a TV personality, you won 5 Emmys. I mean, you had a career there, Rob, and you somehow aviation kind of stole your heart, or how did that happen?
It kind of went parallel. I got my pilot's license in 1982 after having been involved on the Braun Show, getting a flight with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. And I said to my wife at the time, I said, I really, really want to get a pilot's license. And so I studied, worked it, got a pilot's license, and have been flying ever since. Not so much until recently. I would say the last 7 months or 8 months, I have flown more in that time period, or 7 months, than I have in the last 7 years, because I finally bought an airplane, thanks to a couple of guys from Cincinnati area who are performing at Dayton this year.
All right, we'll talk with them here too. Let me ask you, you said you brought the Bob Braun Show up to Dayton.
Yeah, the whole thing.
How did that happen?
Well, it was an opportunity to do a remote at an event, a big public event, and help promote it. And that was something that somehow the folks at Channel 2 in Dayton worked out with the management of the Dayton Airfare.
Because they were both ADCO at that time, weren't they?
Yes, they were ADCO Broadcasting. That was that was an owned and operated station.
So did you have any influence on that maneuver?
No, I didn't know. I didn't even know what was going on hardly. Dan, I saw some pictures. and there was a picture of Bob Braun and a guy named Art Scholl, after whom is named one of the awards that is given to performers in our industry, the Art Scholl Memorial Showmanship Award, and another guy, and I didn't know who it was, and so I posted it on Facebook and said, who was that? And they said, Pappy Boyington, the famous Marine Corps aviator of the Black Sheep Squadron, racked up, what, 28 victories, most of them in a Corsair.
Became a TV show.
That's right, and they had a Corsair flying, and that's why Pappy was there, and so I all of a sudden, the people, as I started hanging at Dayton, the people who were my heroes are now my friends.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
So when did you know that, you know what, I'm pretty good at this, that maybe we can make a run at this and do what you love, and you never work a day in your life, as you'll say. Right?
Yeah, gee, Dan, I think probably I realized I was pretty good at it when I got to the late 90s. And with the encouragement and the president of the International Council of Air Shows at that time, and remains and is still our president, John Cudahy, asked me to MC the closing night chairman's banquet in 1999, and it paid off. And Sean D. Tucker was also another one of those guys who started saying to other people around the country, you ought to check out Rob Reider. And so between those two guys, my reputation was bolstered, and so by 2006, I thought, this might just work.
That's awesome. Now, how many shows do you do with Danny per year here in the United States?
Well, actually only get to do 2 with Danny, at Oshkosh and at Dayton.
Okay.
And if somebody else wants to hire us, that's great, but typically they go with one announcer.
I see.
But Dayton has been one of those shows that says, we really like the interplay that Danny and Rob put together.
I mean, I can't imagine an air show here in Dayton without you two giving us the play-by-play, and that's in good and bad times. And I also appreciate, you know, we've had some tragedies at the Dayton Air Show, and I appreciate how you and Danny handled that very, very delicate situation. You did it with dignity and with grace, under fire, a tremendous emotional time, and you kind of led us through that, and I want to thank you for that, because we talk about this aviation community. It's a very, very tight-knit community, and nobody knows that. Nobody is weaved into that fabric of this aviation community like you and Danny.
I think, Dan, thank you for those comments. I believe that the aviation, and specifically the air show community, is tight-knit because those who are putting their airplanes in the sky can't pull over to the side of the road if something goes wrong. They have to deal with it as an emergency situation, and not everybody survives. And mistakes are made, and because everybody's living on the edge of the envelope, I think friendships get tighter sooner. And I believe that's part of what makes the air show business so different from others.
Right. I mean,
your lives are on the line.
You admire what they do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're brave people, and you know, you show great reverence for that, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate you know, all the awards that you have won. I mean, you've won some of the highest awards you can win at this level, the Sword of Excellence. How did that make you feel when you were you had to know then that you were at the top of your game?
Well, I think so. I didn't know it was going to be presented. I was emceeing in 2007, emceeing the closing night banquet, and I had just presented the Sword of Excellence to the Blue Angels in 2007. And I was doing the wrap-up, and John Cudahy, our president, pushed me aside. And
you're saying, wait a minute, this isn't on the script. What's going on here, John?
And I was kind of going,
okay.
And he said, it's been 11 years. I can almost quote this. It's been 11 years since we've presented 2 Swords of Excellence in one evening. Keeping it a secret from Rob Reider was one of the most difficult challenges of my life. And that was also the year that the Blue Angels lost a pilot at a show where I was announcing. And the same year that I lost my first wife. And it was one of the most emotional times ever. and it's coming back big time
so
right
sorry.
now.
I'm
No,
so sorry, man.
but my air show family stood by me.
Right.
After Gail passed away, I told a couple of air shows, they gave me the option to blow them off. I said, guys, I got to get back in the saddle. Nobody tried to coddle me. They said, Rob, we're really sorry. Let's go fly. Wow. And
you
so
needed that, though, didn't you?
I did. I needed to get back in the saddle and do it. So my air show family is very special next to my nuclear family. A huge part of my life. And I remarried in 2012, and my wife Jill has joined that family and has been accepted into that family.
That's awesome.
So it's really cool.
God bless you for having
Thanks.
that. That's wonderful.
Oh my gosh, you caught me on that one, bub.
I am so sorry.
Oh, no, don't be. That's all right. No, that's all right.
But it gets to what we talk about, the emotion of how much you care about this business.
Yeah, I've got...
and they care about you, more importantly.
Well, yeah, thanks. The tragedy with Jim Leroy, also in 2007. That year of my announcing, I had 4 fatalities that I had to deal with. And so losing Jim Leroy, and then Jane Wicker, and Charlie Schwenker that day. I was standing next to Jane's fiance when the airplane went down. Jane and I were very good friends and had dated a while I was single in between the time I lost Gail and started dating Jill. So that's, that is a particularly tough image to remember.
How did you get through that? You're a human being. I mean, and yet you're thrust into a position of opening that microphone and explaining to the thousands of shocked visitors there. How did you do it?
There is an immediate compartmentalizing that has to take place. And you have to react very quickly. And there is something that I call a last page in my book. And it's one that I've memorized and practiced and practiced and practiced, and have had to use, unfortunately, too many times, with several things to say that are enough by rote that I can use that time as I deliver those words to gather myself together and let the emergency personnel deal with the emergency, let the show management deal with the press and the other people, and let me communicate to the crowd a sense of at least a sense of calm to take care of that. I will tell you, Dan, that out in Reno when they had the crash a few years ago, was that 2012, you guys? In 2012, when Jimmy Leeward's airplane suffered a catastrophic control surface failure and plowed into the crowd and killed, I believe, 12 people. Danny Clisham was there as the announcer. And he said to me that he saw the airplane coming toward him.
Oh, boy.
And he thought 2 things. This is just like computer graphics in a movie. And he said, so this is how it's going to end. He thought he was going to die. And the airplane, as it came down, started to develop lift on its trajectory and missed him by about 20 or 30 feet. Had it gone 20 feet less far, it would have gone into the bleachers and killed hundreds. But as it was, it missed Danny, and Danny handled the crowd for about 40 minutes. And it's a case for both Danny and me. We do what we have to do, but we compartmentalize. It's not our show at that point. It's our job to keep the crowd calm, contained, and informed.
Right.
And if we can do those 3 things, then we've done our job properly.
How much of your TV personality comes out in what you do? Because you do a lot of videos and do a lot of instructional things. I know you do training for other air show acts and things like that. So how much have you relied on that TV personality?
Well, the Bob Braun Show was in everybody's home 5 days a week, 90 minutes a day. So it's not the TV personality, it's who we are. So we laugh, we cry, we live, people see us pretty much as we are. So when I'm on stage at an air show, I'm just having fun. So they, I'm not doing
I'm
this.
Rob Ryder.
So I'm Rob Ryder, and welcome to the show. Nah, come on, nobody's going to buy that stuff.
Right.
And so Danny and I just go back and forth, and I'll look at him, and he'll say something, and I'll turn off the mic, and I'll say, "That's full of crap." So we just have fun with each other and with the crowd.
Right. Well, I appreciate you just seem to know so much about, where do you get the knowledge? I mean, you say Danny is a walking encyclopedia, but you have to do your homework too.
Yeah, I do. The fact that I'm a pilot helps. The fact that I'm an entertainer helps even more. And you, as an interviewer, as a radio host and a television host, do your homework. And if you've got to read a book and you see, you're going to see somebody here and you say, well, you'll Google that person's name if it's somebody you've not seen before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I watched or heard an interview earlier this year on a private radio station down in Florida where the second interview had no idea who the guest was and asked him, I've never heard of your propeller company. And all I could think is, what does it take to Google the name of that guest beforehand and scribble down a couple of notes and at least get some direction?
Well,
and you can read, and Danny and I both have figured out, and I say this multiple times during shows, aviation history is like any other history. There are multiple accounts. When you say,
that's right.
That's right.
It's very true, though, right?
And Danny and I say, there are 15,000 Mustangs or 14,900 whatever Mustangs built between 1940 and 1945. But if your numbers are different than our numbers, and we say together, then you're right.
That's right. But every show's different, though. I mean, you have different aircraft, you have different performers. I mean, how do you piece that all together?
Well, it used to be that I had 3 binders in my closet.
I'll be done.
And when I would look for the list of performers, and I would pull sheets of paper from before, or I would call the performers, ask them to email me something or send me something, or I would be handed scripts when I got there. They would go into a show binder and page protectors. But now, I have 2 iPads. And I have literally saved 18 pounds of paper. So I can... I just, I'm tapping things here and reading most of my scripts, and then I have a small binder in case I get stuck at the last minute.
What's your yearly schedule like? You practically have to have an airplane to keep up with your schedule, don't you?
Well, having an airplane gets me days of my life back. Because now, if it's not too far away and I'm not tired, I can leave after a show on Sunday and be in my own bed on Sunday night. Used to be Monday I'd be a travel day and sometimes not get back till 11 o'clock Monday night. So that's, if the West Coast, different story. But anything pretty much east of the Mississippi, I can fly to in my airplane now. In this little experimental RV-7 airplane, which John Thacker and Ken Reeder, those are the guys that from Redline who will be performing at Dayton this year. Those are the guys who said that this was a viable option for me. And it turns out not only a viable option, but an incredibly flexible option. It's kind of like a magic carpet now. But anyway.
It's faster, right?
Yeah, faster than the Cessna 182 that I would occasionally fly to an air show.
More economical.
Way more economical. And it's far more well equipped than that old Cessna 182 was. But my years.
Is it a 2-seater? Or?
Yeah, just 2. Yeah, it's an experimental aircraft, but it goes 160 knots, 184 miles an hour. And the ones that John and Ken fly, since they're designed a little differently, they go 200 miles an hour on 9 gallons worth of gas an hour. We're getting 21, 22 miles to a gallon. My wife's car doesn't do that well, right? But my year starts out in. I finish our season in November and immediately go to work on stuff for our convention, because I do the video directing of several of the events, or MC, do all the electronic graphics for our convention. So by December 9th or 10th, I go into Christmas, and I have nothing until the end of January when I start. I work coaching the Golden Knights narrators down in Florida, the Blue Angels narrator out in California at El Centro in their winter training. I do that for 3 or 4 days apiece of each of those. And then this year, I did the Thunderbirds' new narrator coaching. And they will keep that narrator for 2 years. Hopefully in a couple of years, I'll come back and do that. But then the season starts in March and just goes pretty much nonstop through November, the first weekend in November.
Wow.
When the Thunderbirds finish at Nellis Air Force Base, and the Blue Angels finish their homecoming show at Naval Air Station Pensacola. Now this year, I'm in the middle of a 7-week run out for this year, and I will have all of August off.
Really?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Just how the schedule worked out.
I'll be darned.
So my wife and I are going to be in Scottsdale for a week,
for you.
hanging out with the Kingston Trio,
Oh,
friends of mine. Yeah, and
oh, that's awesome.
oh
So
my
kind of
gosh.
getting back to that musical love that you have.
I've been producing records for
Yeah.
them, and I've sung with them. So that's a week of playing guitar.
Very cool.
And then we're going up to a little place I have in Maine on an island off the coast.
Well, that's nice.
And
man.
we don't see anybody for 2 weeks.
Wow.
We just
Turn the phones off. We probably don't even get cell service.
No,
where you're
there's
going.
no cell service. We've got internet. We can do that, but we, you know, it's
Awesome.
a very just for Jill and me to hang out.
Right.
And
But
then,
you have to do that, though, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, this, you know, with some of the tragedies, it takes its toll on you. I can imagine.
I think the whole idea of just the noise takes its toll on you.
Really?
Yeah, it's a noisy environment, and I find that when I get home, I'm able to be home and be quiet. And Jill and I have a nice, we've got woods in the backyard down there in Loveland, Ohio. So we're very, very happy to get up to Maine too, where it's even quieter.
Well, you got to be happy that we've got a Loveland boys going to be performing in the
you
air show
believe
this
that?
year. That's cool.
Yeah, that's
very
from
cool.
VFA 122. Normally the East Coast Navy Hornet Squadron, VFA 106, would send an airplane, which they've done in the past. But these guys from VFA 102, they're bringing it since it's a home show for him. I mean, we live very close to the high school where he graduated.
Awesome, awesome.
That's so cool.
How do we do a better job of getting the folks from Cincinnati and Columbus and just our region to participate in this air show?
Wow. You mean in terms of spectators?
Well, both. Whichever you think that we could do a better job. I mean, it seems like we have good attendance, but we can always do better.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for you. I don't have any answer for you on that because I am so ingrained on it. I think anybody who's able to get up in an airplane and make it go upside down or roll or loop or whatever they do, or Rob Holland, who will turn the airplane every which way but loose, he's got to be the most aggressive aerobatic pilot in the world.
More so than Sean D. Tucker?
Actually, in some cases, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he just beats up a plane like I've never seen anybody.
Right. Well, different kind of airplane. It's a monoplane that Rob Holland flies. So, but between the two of them, I mean, they are the top of the heap, and other guys that are out there with him doing well and some fantastic airplanes. But I'm enamored by that. I can't do that. I get motion sick if I do too much of that. I have gotten sick in the back of an FA-18 with the Blue Angels.
And he admits it. God bless you. Hey,
Right in the back.
I think it's their job to make you sick. Because I've flown with the Thunderbird.
Well, there you go.
Excuse me, the Blue Angels.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right.
And I think they're looking in the rearview mirror, just hoping you'll.
They're trying to put you to sleep.
They're chuckling, going, "When's he going to go?
Yeah.
What do I got to do to make him go?"
After I had my first like this came to, I spent the rest of the time just looking at the rear view mirrors to see if I could still see the color in his yellow helmet, you know. I was talking to a guy who's been there. Have you passed out like I have?
I almost. I mean, you know, here's what I took away from that ride with the Blue Angels is that I was so respectful of what these gentlemen and women too, what they do for our country each and every day.
Yeah.
And we take it for granted, but what the physical condition they have to be in, and the knowledge they have to have. I mean, it's amazing. And I got off that ground. One, like you and TV, I had to do an interview as soon as I hit the ground. I could barely breathe. Like, oh, what was your experience like? I mean, 40 minutes of that flight. And here's the other thing that I took away from it. I said to myself, as the wheels touched down, I go, that is the most fun I'll ever have in my entire life.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. And the Blues are particularly good friends. I was made an honorary Blue Angel in 2010. And hanging with those guys, listening to them on the radio, I can't talk to them when they're in the airplanes, but when they're in parking, the solo pilots will say hi to me, and I'll flash them with a mirror. And
that's what I love about how you interact with the pilots in the air, and you take us into that cockpit.
I hope so. That's what I would like to do, because the experience of flying, and flying, I don't consider getting on an airliner, Dan, as flying. That's riding a bus.
It's public transportation.
That's what it is. And besides, you could get dragged off. They can't drag me out of my airplane. I never overbook my flight.
Oh, golly, we have so much fun. And you have the best seat in the house, man. I envy you so much, you and Danny out there, because you guys are just having a blast.
You better come out.
I'd love to.
Come on out.
I have witnesses, though. He invited me.
Well, come on out this year, and we will.
Oh my gosh.
We'll crucify you. Is what we'll do.
But you know, I love the music, and being a music guy, you know, both of us. I mean, do you do any compositions for air shows?
No, I don't. But at Dayton, we work with a guy named Jay Rabbit from Air Show 1 and In Concert Productions. He's got a huge production company in Atlanta. He helps just huge stuff that he does all over the country. But his passion is aviation too. And Jay comes out, and he's got a truck back there filled with stuff, and he's thinking music. And I've got my headset, and I can talk to him on the intercom. And I said,
awesome.
And I said, give me a bed. Just do this.
Yeah.
Hit it.
Yeah.
Or he's way ahead of me on the music, and so that production value is just so cool. So cool.
Is Dayton maybe ahead of the schedule a little bit when it comes to that production value?
The answer to that is yes. Dayton has chosen to use Jay Rabbit. There are a couple of other companies one of which is managed by a guy in Cincinnati, Dave Olmstead and Continental Airshow Productions. It's owned by the Bordelot family up in Wisconsin. My mentor, Bill Bordelot, passed away in 2008. He was a longtime voice of the show, as I think I've mentioned. And but Dave Olmstead, he thinks like Jay Rabbit. He's thinking music all the time, and we have this intercom, and so the production value is very good. Between those two companies, cha-ching. And another company, Mach 1 Productions, it's great to work with those guys who are just always thinking like that.
Well, Rob, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Is our time up?
Unfortunately, yes.
Holy
I know you've got
cow.
a tight schedule, so we want to get you in and out. But how can we keep up with you? I know you have a Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook.com/Rob Announcer, or Rob Reider Air Show Announcer, R-E-I-D-E-R. I think the super's there.
There it goes, right there. Well, thank you so much, and I know you have enjoyed it as much as I have to be inside the life of Rob Reider, and an amazing life it is, and some amazing experiences. I had so many more questions, but we got to let you go. We look forward to seeing you June 24th and 25th at the Dayton Air Show.
We'll be there. Please come on up, Dan.
I'll do that. Thank you, Butch. Well, thank you for being with us here. I'm Dan Edwards from the new Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ. Well, again, we'll see you at the Veteran Dayton Air Show presented by Kroger, 24th and 25th at the Dayton International Airport. We'll see you at the Air Show. Take care.